Everyone, to the first session of the Art of Self-Giving. Before we open the workshop, let's have a moment's silence, please. So warm greetings, everyone. The Art of Self-Giving. This is the title of the workshop. Because the most that we can do in life is to give ourselves exclusively to the divine. It's really all that can be asked of us. In this program, 6 different facilitators will look at the different aspects of this self-giving. Self-giving is the expression of surrender. It requires sustained and conscious practice, but to give ourselves our being, to give ourselves opens our being to the supreme joy and fulfillment. Just a couple of words about Monica, the facilitator. She's an editor of NAMAH, a very important part of our team now. She conducts a lot of online sessions on living light. She's had a lot of adversity in life. She's overcome cancer and she's pulled through beautifully. So I'm really looking forward to this session. She's going to be speaking about life, a conscious sacrifice. So over to you, Monica.
Thank you so much, James. So, namaste to everyone present here and all the others who would be later on listening to the recordings. So I feel, as James was sharing, that many facilitators to cover this topic, and it's beautiful because there are many aspects which need to be covered, and I think 1 hour would be too short maybe we'll be able to touch upon a few things through words of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So today I'm going to present a few slides as a supporting thing for today's presentation and discussion and reflection. And most of it is taken from Sri Aurobindo's Synthesis of Yoga, for those of us who are interested. Chapter 4, 5 and 6. The sacrifice, the ascent of sacrifice 1 and the ascent of sacrifice 2, where he in very much detail touches upon even starting from what is sacrifice and why we need to discuss and talk about sacrifice, and then what is the process and what are the, one can say, signs and symptoms that sacrifice is going on in a right manner. So all that he covers through these chapters beautifully, and I have taken today in my slides the words from these 3 chapters, basically the first chapter, and some words by the mother herself. So just a second. So the topic today is life. Can life be a conscious sacrifice? And whenever we talk of sacrifice, the image of somehow fire comes to our sight. because especially in India, we have all these rituals and rites where one is performing a havan or a yagna, where you are putting ahutis in the fire and consecrating everything to the divine through Lord Agni. So these are the chapters that I shared, that I'll be sharing from Synthesis of Yoga, chapter 4, 5, 6. So Sri Aurobindo talks of an unconscious sacrifice, that it is already going on, and he calls it a great world rite. It's already going on, whether we are aware of it or whether we are unaware of it. It doesn't matter. So just reading a few lines from him. Even in this much fragmented existence, there is beyond itself and behind that which is not its egoistic person, something greater and completer, a diviner all, which demands from it subordination and service. And I think that's why we can see that in our life, day-to-day life, and even if we look at a larger picture of life, anything that we want to possess, we can't possess it. We are never able to grasp anything fully, whether it is a person, whether it's a situation, money, power, fame. We are never able to find fulfillment in these things. Why? Because sooner or later, kind of, they are taken away and we don't find our fulfillment there. Why? Because whenever the ego self wants to take itself for itself, through grasping and attachment, that let me feed on power, money, and people and relationships, we never can find fulfillment there, because all that doesn't belong to the ego self. It belongs to a completer diviner all. And that is why we will have to subordinate and sacrifice to something greater than us. So it is anyway going on, through our experiences we can see. And he says that indeed sacrifice is imposed and where need be compelled by the universal world force. It takes it even from those who do not consciously recognize the law. So it doesn't matter, it is not dependent upon me that whether I'm conscious of the law or not. I will not be able to gain fulfillment through anything that I want to possess. Inevitably, because this is the intrinsic nature of things. So this is the grand design that's in place. And that is why collective human experience, we can see that no one ever found fulfillment in any of these outward things that we may want to possess. So he further continues, our ignorance or our false egoistic view of life, where we always are concentrated on this limited self, me, my body, my little family, my little loved ones, very, very narrow and constricted. Our ignorance, ignoring who we truly are, not knowing our true nature, ignorance or our false egoistic view of life can make no difference to this eternal bedrock of nature. So whether I believe in divine or not believe in divine, divine doesn't care. He cares a lot, but in that sense, it doesn't matter whether I believe in divine or not believe in divine. He's there, and that nothing can remove that. For this is the truth in nature, that this ego, which thinks itself a separate, independent being and claims to live for itself, is not and cannot be independent or separate, nor can it live to itself even if it would, but rather all linked together by a secret oneness. So we see that how this secret oneness is in place, that if I'm throwing out garbage out on earth, thinking that, oh, my house is clean and now I can dirty the other things, we see that it comes back to us. Now we are seeing that all the pollution that we throw outside, like plastics in the ocean, it's all coming back to us. So we are interconnected at much more a deeper level than we can imagine. Right? So even there, it's like very gross. We can sense it. It's tangible, our interconnection. So here he shares that the ego which thinks that I am a separate entity, I end here and the world begins there. So let me possess everything for myself. This is how we live, a person, a relationship, or something. Let me possess it so that I can be fulfilled. But that can never happen because this is false. That can never ever happen. All of us present here will share the same experience through all the life has, shown us that we will never ever be able to fully possess anything which can give us fulfillment. Person, no relationship, no money, no power, no fame, no respect. The moment we want to grasp it, it kind of goes away even further, away from us. So we don't find that fulfillment there. Why Sri Aurobindo says that it is ego thinks that it's a separate entity, but that's false. We are all interconnected. If I sink in my desires, as mother shares that, then we allow others to sink in their desires. Each ripple makes a difference. And as soon as I step back from my desire, then we help others to step back from their desires. So mother says that we don't even know that by being in whatever little sphere we are working, in a work that we do on ourselves, where we are consciously stepping back from ill will and desires, we don't know what ripples we are making in the world, sitting at home in our inner world. We have no clue. It's the biggest social work that we are doing. We are not even aware of it. So this secret oneness, that he talks of, Thich Nhat Hanh, the famous Zen master, he also talks of this secret oneness, and he says that we are here to awaken from our illusion of separateness. That, oh, I have become enlightened and now I don't care whether others are not, so it cannot happen that way, because again, that is the egoistic point of view. So we are here, he says, we are here to awaken from our illusion of separateness. If you truly get in touch, and this is a beautiful description that he gives, that how everything is interconnected. So he looks at a piece of carrot and he says that if you truly get in touch with that carrot, you will get in touch with the soil, the rain, the sunshine. You get in touch with Mother Earth, and eating in such a way you feel in touch with true life. So we are in touch with oneness of the universe that we always miss, that the egoistic point of view misses. And that, he says, is meditation. When we are living in that oneness, palpable in our life. If we chew every morsel of our food in that way, we become grateful, and when you are grateful, you are happy. So just to elaborate upon the point of oneness and interconnectedness that Sri Aurobindo was making, that we are anyway connected, interconnected at such a vast level that we can never, really grasp it fully. So even, we are all sitting here wearing clothes. Now these clothes are here on our body because someone somewhere grew some cotton. And that cotton was grown because there was sunshine, there was rain, there was Mother Earth, there was sweat, all that, and plus all the chain of events that led, okay, so that now I have the clothes that I am wearing. So not for anybody, this laptop that we are using, so everything is connected so vastly that we can't exist independently. So it's a false view when the ego thinks that, oh, I can be happy and let others go to wherever they want to go, go to hell. That cannot happen. It's a false view. So keep sharing if there is anything. Yeah, I'll show the slide in full screen. So before I go to the further slides, I wanted to take a short clip from a Buddhist teacher, which is talking about how we usually live on the surface consciousness. And the process is to step back, as Sri Aurobindo talks about, stepping back from the surface consciousness, stabilizing ourselves in the witnessing stance, so that we can have a little bit of distance from the movements, and then later on also mastery, which we will come on later in this series. Just a second, I'll just put it on.
mostly people, all of us, are living at the very surface of our mind, right? We are living on the waves of the ocean, up and down, up and down, up and down, very surface, caught always in our chatter, 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 endless, like having a television on that you can never turn off in your head. You know, endlessly going on, all the commercials and all the endless soap operas and all the, you know, all nonsense that's on anybody's television. It's all in our head. Blah, 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 blah. The sad bits and the happy bits and all the memories and all the hopes and fears. Blah, 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 blah. Can't turn it off. But there's another level. Our mindfulness. The ability to observe that without being drawn into it, right? So in the shamatha practice and in the vipassana practices, we're honing that skill to be able to observe and witness the mind without being drawn into the mind, just seeing thoughts and emotions as thoughts and emotions, not me, not mine, just. So that's already a huge step forward, right? We had the chattery TV mind is just the gross mind, and there's the ability to observe that, which is a more subtle level of mind, mindfulness, right? Nowadays, mindfulness is the big thing, and it's good. I mean, you know, people say ordinary people shouldn't be taught mindfulness because they don't know it's Buddhist. Who cares? If we are able to help people to disassociate skillfully from their thoughts and their emotions and just to recognize thoughts and emotions as just thoughts and emotions so that we are more in control of our mind instead of being controlled by our mind, then that's a good thing. Even just that. I mean, the ego, which is the conceptual thinking mind, is a terrible master, but it's a good servant. We're not trying to stop thinking. Thinking is a brilliant thing. We're not trying to end up blank. But we should be in control of the mind rather than controlled by it.
Yeah, anything so far? Anyone before we take further slides? Okay, so I'll just move on, and now I'm going to put it big. I hope this is okay. Yeah. So what Jetsunma Tenzing Palmo was sharing, we are going to come to it very soon, that for sacrifice to happen, for a conscious sacrifice to happen, it is very important, and we can't bypass the step of stepping back from the surface mind, because all that we need to sacrifice is going on in the surface mind. And that is why this stepping back, as mother says, stepping back from the surface consciousness, or taking the witness stance, as Sri Aurobindo says, it's very, very important. We can't bypass it. So this we will be coming back to later. And also the aspect of self-mastery, that when we are stepping back from thoughts and feelings, then only we can exert some control over the thoughts and feelings. If we are always entangled in their mesh, then there's hardly any self-mastery. So we'll get back to that again. So how to make the conscious sacrifice? What is the process? How to begin? Where to begin? So Sri Aurobindo, again, he says, though at first slowly and partially, we learn to make the conscious sacrifice. And what to sacrifice, that also we are going to come later. Even in the end, we take joy to give ourselves and what we envisage as belonging to us in a spirit of love and devotion to that which appears for the moment other than ourselves and is certainly other than our limited personalities. So, first we have to, as we take baby steps, so anything that we observe in ourselves which we want to offer to mother, we remember and offer. That's again, included in the sacrifice process. And we keep offering all that we are, all that we can think of, all our tendencies, all the patterns, the desires that are not serving us well, demands, expectations, all that goes on in the chattery surface mind. And in the beginning, he says that we learn to make a slow and partial sacrifice, which is a part of the process. But towards the end, we take joy because for the love of this sacrifice, we are sacrificing. We are not sacrificing that after sacrifice, we will get something or achieve some realization where we can be really, fulfilled. The process of sacrifice itself is a fulfilling process in itself. So he says that we take joy to give ourselves. So this self-giving, self-offering, this consecration is joy itself. That's why we will sacrifice. Because we have seen through our experiences that whenever we have tried to live by wanting to possess things and people for ourselves, it doesn't bring us joy. It brings us more and more pain and misery. And that is not a correct way to live. We are not here in this life to struggle and be full of misery. Things can happen beautifully. So once we have enough experiences of that sort, that now we realize that that's not working for us, then we take joy, because even for once we do it, any self-giving that we do in our life, we see that it is joy. So we will do it for joy of the process and to something higher. He says that as if we are offering to something higher, which may appear separate from us, but actually is not separate from us. Mother and Sri Aurobindo, they are part and piece of each and every cell of our being. They are not sitting, we all know that they are not somewhere out there and disconnected from us. So he says that we'll do it belonging to us in a spirit of love and devotion to that which appears for the moment other than ourselves and is certainly other than our limited personality. So what I think of myself to be, of course, the divine is much more than that. So in that sense, it's certainly other. But in the other sense, it is just, we are made of that substance. So this is how we begin. And just a few pointers I kind of wrote down, that what should be our daily practice. Again, many tools can be used, and I'm sure all of us have our own disciplines and tools. So just also from all the points that we have discussed, remembering our interconnectedness, whenever we are finding ourselves constricted and suffocated in me and my story, and I am the victim and who is to blame, all that goes on in our head. We just remembering our interconnectedness, that we are so vastly interconnected and that there is no end to it. So getting in touch with that space whenever we are lost in our separate limited selves, which we are not. Then also another way of interconnection and entering a vastness is sharing and dedicating our joy and delight. Many a times we are feeling a little joy in the being, like I'm feeling happy today. The moment I become happy, conscious of that happiness and delight, say we are remembering the mother and we are feeling contented, joyful. So just connecting with that feeling of joy and just saying an inward prayer, may all beings have this joy and delight that I am having today. So sharing that, since we are all connected, sharing our merit, sharing our joy and delight and happiness with all the beings throughout. So that also helps us move away from our limited, constricted sense of self. And then if we are not having a good time, many a times we are suffering, we are not in a good space, then to connect with that space that we are in, maybe we have faced some rejection in love, relationship, work, money, anything that we are struggling with. So connecting with that pain that we feel, and through that pain, knowing that the pain that I go through, so many of us go through this pain. Now I know. Now I can understand this suffering that comes from the ego consciousness. So sharing this human suffering and just sending an inward prayer again to all the beings everywhere, that now I see the pain that we go through, and may each one of us have simplicity in the mind and goodness in the heart. May we be able to be in the present moment simply and lightly. So even that pain that we are going through, confusion that we are going through, some loss or grieving that we are going through, all that can be made use of, and nothing goes waste. Everything becomes a part of the sadhana. So again, picking up the threads from Sri Aurobindo. So he says that now we are mentally understanding that yes, there is a world rite of sacrifice going on. We are not away from it any moment. Now how to align with it, how to become conscious of it and begin to practice it. So he says, only when the heart, the will, and the mind of knowledge associate themselves with the law and gladly follow it, can there come the deep joy and the happy fruitfulness of divine sacrifice. So all these experiences that we had so far in our life, we know that they are not very skillful ways of living. And now I want to live skillfully, I want to live beautifully, not wanting to harm others and myself in the process. So he says that the heart has to be aligned, the will, the determination, conviction has to be aligned, which comes from our past experiences. And then the mind of knowledge, there has to be an understanding in the mind that yes, I resonate that this is the way forward. So when we align in all these three places with the law of sacrifice, then can we have the deep joy in following the law. That whatever we do is consecrated to the divine, is sacrificed on the altar of the spirit. The mind's knowledge of the law and heart's gladness in it. So we are doing it gladly. We are not waiting that, oh, today I am doing sacrifice so that tomorrow I can get something. So let me, pester myself with the sacrifice. That's not the way that we are going to do it. We are doing it gladly. Why? Because I understand that this is the way to do it. This is the best possible way to live life. No? The mind's knowledge of the law and the heart's gladness. Sorry, okay. In it culminate in the perception that it is to our own self and the one self and spirit of all that we give. So many a times, whenever we're talking of sacrifice, thing comes that, okay, I have sacrificed so much for my family, I've sacrificed so much for my children. And if we keep on complaining like that, it means we never truly sacrificed. Because when we truly, genuinely sacrifice, then we see that we are not sacrificing it to somebody other than ourselves. We are sacrificing to our own higher self, which is the true way to live. So even when I am sacrificing my life, for example, to someone I love, I am doing it just for the sake of that higher self which is present in all, which is present in me, which is present in all the others. So who am I giving to? The higher is giving to the higher, because there is no two here. So when we recognize, he says in the second one, the mind's knowledge of the law and heart's gladness in it, that I'm happy to live this life in a conscious way of sacrificing. He says, then it culminates in the perception that it is to our own self that we give. Then there is no demand that, oh, because I gave you, you give it back to me. Because when I'm asking that, then it means I'm still living in the egoistic, separate consciousness. That, oh, I am lacking and you have got it. Nothing like that. Whenever I am doing it, and we will again, all of us who are wondering what is this law of sacrifice, we are coming to it. We are building the base and we are coming what to sacrifice and what is this law about. This is all the law that we are talking of. So then I do not remain empty because I am sacrificing, and we don't have to sacrifice the good things. We are going to sacrifice, as Alokda many a times, in his talks, he shares that the divine is waiting for us he wants to do an exchange offer with us. He says, give us all the baggage, old baggage that you have, and in exchange, you take the new baggage, the new, the bliss, the delight, the knowledge, the wisdom, the intelligence, all that you take. But we are not ready. So when I'm called for this sacrifice, the sacrifice is for something higher, which belongs to me, which is my birthright. And if I keep on holding to the muck that I am holding, then all that is my birthright will be away from me. Right? So if I want in my cup something beautiful, some nice drink, I first have to empty the cup of all the rubbish that I am holding. That's what we have to sacrifice. So if we recognize now that there are thoughts and feelings and patterns and stories in the head which are not fulfilling me, which are bad for me, they're bringing disease in me, that is what I have been called to sacrifice. Now, is that too much? But the divine still keeps on waiting. Like Sri Aurobindo shares that it's like an eternal no and a limping yes. In Savitri, he talks about that. That we still say that, no, please come later. I'm not ready right now. Yeah. So he says that when we truly wholly give ourselves, the Lord also gives himself altogether. But such is our state in ignorance that we are not wanting the divine at all. And Mother, in one of the prayers, she shares that what is the problem with men? They run away from these boons as if there's something wrong with the boons. So Sri Aurobindo shares, for the soul that wholly gives itself to him, Lord also gives himself altogether. But at times we are wondering that I don't want the Lord right now. I just want that lollipop that I'm waiting for. So he says, only the one who offers his whole nature, like we are, we are emptying our cups now. We are giving our whole nature to the higher, and then we are taking the exchange gift, which is our own genuine true self. Because right now I am sticking to all that is not me. The ego consciousness is not me. That's what I'm sticking to. It's not fulfilling. And yet I'm keeping, in that groove. Only the one who can give everything, again, emptying the cup, enjoys the divine all everywhere. Only a supreme self-abandonment attains to the supreme. So completely getting rid of whatever we think we are, whatever we think is right, whatever we opinions, dogmas, even the possessions, material possessions, the people in our life, inwardly living very non-sticky with them, not in a sticky manner that, okay, let me possess them so that I can have the fulfillment. So not that we don't have to shun away the family and relationships and all the things that we have, we just have to remain in a non-sticky manner, that our fulfillment is not dependent upon them. The fulfillment comes from something higher that we connect with. So I'm just going to take somewhere, I had this mother's prayer, but I'm wondering where it is. Yeah, here. So Mother says that to turn towards thee, unite with thee, live in thee and for thee, is supreme happiness, unmixed joy, immutable peace. It is to breathe infinity, to soar in eternity, no longer feel one's limits, and escape from time and space. And she is wondering, why do men flee from these boons as though they feared them? So this is what happens with us, when we are giving up all that is familiar, and emptying our cups of ideas, thoughts, feelings, everything that is not now serving well, even our nature, likes, preferences, dislikes, when we are emptying ourselves and giving us inwardly to the divine, Mother is wondering that what we get is immutable peace, unmixed joy, supreme happiness. But as if these boons we have no taste for. We are not familiar with these boons. So Mother says that why do men flee from these boons as though they feared them? What a strange thing is this ignorance. Being ignorant of who we truly are. And that source of all suffering. So ignorance is the source of all suffering. And in Buddhism, we have 3 root poisons. Attachment, aversion, and ignorance. And ignorance is the master poison of all, because of ignorance, attachment comes. Because of ignorance, not knowing who we truly are, aversion comes. And throughout our life, we keep living, swimming in these poisons as if this is my life. This is how it is supposed to be. How miserable that obscurity which keeps men away from the very thing which would bring them happiness. So this sacrifice of all that we are and all that we think that we are talking of, that is going to bring us supreme felicity, but we are not ready for that. So Mother says that what is this obscurity? How miserable this obscurity which keeps men away from the very thing which would bring them happiness. Why do I want respect, or why do I want people and relationships in my life? Because I think they will make me happy. But the question is, in trying to possess them, does it bring happiness? Or does it bring more misery? So even seeing that, we seem to run away. So all that we want is to remain content and happy. Even then, we keep running away from these boons. And then we have to be subject to the painful school of suffering, where if not for pain and suffering, we don't come back to the divine. We don't come back to the law of sacrifice, if not, for the presence of suffering and pain in our lives. So that's why Mother puts it in the right perspective, that this is why I need it. Why I need pain and suffering? Because we are in ignorance. It would not be needed if not for the ignorance that we live in. So anything here, anyone? Before we now move on to what is to be sacrificed. Okay. So I find this one of my favorite paragraphs with Sri Aurobindo, where it's like so crisp and clear that what is needed to be sacrificed. It is not one's self, but the band of spirit's inner enemies that we have to discourage, expel, slay upon the altar of the growth of the spirit. So we are that spirit that wants to grow. But how will it grow if I keep identifying with all the wrong things? So first we have to become the witness of all the flow of Prakriti, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions that go on and on and on. And then looking at them, I will become conscious of what goes on in me. And then those disturbing elements have to be sacrificed. So he talks of those that they have to be ruthlessly excised. These can be ruthlessly excised, whose names are, maybe time to write it down and paste it on our walls. Next time it happens, we can right away put it in the fire. Desire, wrath, inequality, greed, attachment to outward pleasures and pains, and the cohort of usurping demons that are the cause of soul's errors and suffering. So this is what we are being asked to sacrifice. Is it too much? We have to ask ourselves, is Sri Aurobindo asking too much from us? So what we have to sacrifice is desire, wrath, inequality. Always we have this something going on in the head, I am superior, the other person is inferior, now I am at this level, the other person is at that level. So this categorization, where we are having as if a scale on which we are judging all the people in our head. He is more spiritual than me, I am less spiritual. Now there another person comes, and then again the comparison starts. Same for the financial things, we are always comparing. So all that categorization, the conceptual mind, inequality, greed, how we want to possess things, we want to just grasp at things, that if it has come, it should not go from my life. Greed, attachment. And if we look at these, the collective that he has shared, we will come to the 3 root poisons in Buddhism: attachment, aversion, and ignorance. So attachment will consist of greed and desire. Both are sticky things, all 3 of them: attachment, greed, and desire. And aversion will be wrath, wherever we are aversive to something, like I don't like that, just repulsive to things, repulsive to pain, repulsive to difficulties, so that would come in that domain. So this is what needs to be sacrificed. These, he says, all these that we discussed should be regarded not as part of oneself, but as intruders and perverters of ourselves' real and diviner nature. So one cannot say that it is my desire, it is my greed. No, there is nothing personal about that. It's just a collective thing present, and we have to know that it is coming from outside. It's not belonging to my true nature, and that is why it is so disturbing. It makes me either agitated or totally disappointed. It takes away my ease in the being. That's why it is coming from outside. These have to be sacrificed in the harsher sense of the word. Whatever pain is going on, they may throw by reflection on the consciousness of the seeker. So he says that it will cause pain. Whenever we are letting go of anything, even when we have abusive relationships, at times we are in abusive relationships where we are living with a person who is not very respectful, and there is abuse, physical or mental abuse. We will see that even in those relationships, we find very hard to let go of that person, because we have become habituated. We have become too familiar with that person. So it's hard to let go. So he's saying that whenever we are now sacrificing, now the desire comes, an expectation comes, and I am looking at it, and I offer it to the mother, I immediately put it in the fire. It will cause pain. Why? Because I'm used to live identifying with that desire. So he says that whatever pain comes, that's the part of the process. I don't have to run away from that pain. It is an auspicious pain. Just like when a mother gives birth to a baby, the labor pain is an auspicious kind of pain. In fact, if the pain is not happening, the doctors become very concerned that why is the pain not happening, right? So this pain is very auspicious when we are throwing away these usurping demons that kill us, that eat us up, because that is how we give rise to our new birth self, the truer self. So these have to be sacrificed. And just so that we can take it in, I just thought it's good to look at it visually, that whenever we put the ahuti, whatever fans the fire that we are, and we are all this fire, we are all this fire of aspiration, whether we know it or not. The fire of aspiration is our true self. The psychic being is an inner fire which always wants to progress and grow. So how to make it grow? Many a times we are wondering how to get in touch with my psychic being, how to make it grow and aspire. And Sri Aurobindo clearly shares this is how you make it grow and aspire. You put all this raw material that fans the fire which you truly are. And the raw material is whenever we become conscious of these things in ourselves, we don't have to follow their dictates. And the true self is the fire below, which is growing when I am putting all this raw material within. This is the sacrifice that is demanded of us. And again, I see this is not too much. It's not too much. We can't complain that, oh, mother, you are asking for too much, or maybe giving too little, asking for too much. So jealousy, greed, desire, inequality, attachment, aversion, wrath, all which are just disturbing elements in our inner ease, these have to be sacrificed so that in that sacrifice, our true being can grow. And this is a moment to moment process. I think all of us by now know that all life is yoga. Each moment we have to be conscious, vigilant, and when we are conscious and vigilant, then we can throw the disturbing elements in the fire rather than following their dictates and hence feeding the ego consciousness. So just coming towards the end, and after that maybe we can take a few reflections and questions. So the demand from us is that we should turn our whole life into a conscious sacrifice. Whatever we see, especially starting with all that Sri Aurobindo was sharing, all the disturbing elements which are not a skillful way to live, that is what we put first in the fire, inwardly again. And when we are putting in the fire, it means that I am not following its dictates. Whatever desire tells me to do, I don't follow that dictate. If there is a judgment that comes in the mind, I don't believe in it. If there is a feeling which is very entangling, disturbing, I don't follow the dictate. I immediately put it away. If there is an attachment that is there, I see in myself, I do not follow the dictate of the attachment. I step back from it. That's how we put it in the fire. Once in the fire, then we don't have anything to do with it. We can't just keep on taking back again and again. So every moment and every movement of our being is to be resolved into a continuous and devoted self-giving to the eternal, because now I understand that this is the best way to live, which I would like to live. This makes my life beautiful. All our actions, not less the smallest and most ordinary and trifling than the greatest and most uncommon and noble, must be performed as consecrated acts. Again, Dr. Alok Pandey shares again and again that whether we are eating, going to the washroom, meeting a friend, making a phone call, doing any most ordinary thing, just keep mother with you. Offer everything to the mother. Hold nothing to your little self. Mother, I am doing this. Mother, I am brushing my teeth. Mother, I am eating. So this is how the consecration develops slowly. And how do we know that we are progressing on the path? Because many a times we are wondering. So he shares that a growing sense of divine in all things and a deepening communion with the divine in all our thought, will and action. That you don't want anything for this personal limited self. All that you do is a consecrated action. An absorbing love for the divine presence to whom he feels, the seeker feels, and always more intimate closeness. So in all the beings that we meet, all our day-to-day interactions in ourselves, in all the creatures that we meet, all the forms that we touch, all that I see is I know that there is divine there. So whenever I touch something, I touch it with that sacredness. I don't touch it with that frivolity, that that's nothing and there is the divine somewhere else. Each aspect of manifestation, I touch it with a sacred heart. And then he shares that a settled, selfless love, that is the deeper vibration of oneness. So selfless is that I don't, mother uses the word disinterested love in prayers and meditations. That there is no personal interest whenever I'm loving towards anyone. I'm not wanting it back. So that personal lack is not there now anymore, because there is a growing communion with the divine within, owing to the sacrifice that is going on constantly. And again, he also shares many points. I'll share the slides later, where he shares that the practice demands a constant inward remembrance of the one liberating knowledge, which is there is divine in all things and we are in the divine. So everything that I'm going through is sacred. Nothing is not sacred. Nothing is not spiritual. If I look at, with this attitude, whatever we see and hear, whatever we touch and sense, all of which we are conscious has to be known and felt us by that which we worship and serve. We have the famous example of Mirabai, where even poison could not harm Mirabai. Why? Because she totally knew that there is nothing but Krishna. And even in this poison, if Krishna wants me to have this, I will gladly have it. So that concreteness we need in our devotion in this process. So just, I think, before I come to the conclusion, he talks about two aspects, which in the beginning, the clip that I showed you, Jetsunma Tenzing Palma was talking of. She was sharing that when we step back, then we see that, oh, I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the feelings. It's a constant flow that goes on, but I can be detached from that. So Sri Aurobindo talks of two aspects in the same chapter. He says there is a separative aspect, which is very liberating. When I get to know that, oh, this jealousy that I was feeling, I can look at the jealousy. I am not the jealousy. So first of all, it is very liberating. It removes me from the entanglement. Now the jealousy may be here and I am here, like, the witnessing. So first aspect is the separative aspect, which liberates from the entanglement as we become, take stance as the witnessing consciousness. Then he talks about what Jetsunma was sharing in the beginning, the self-mastery. So I don't just have to take the witnessing stance and do nothing with the thought and feeling. That's not where our work is ending. He says, now I know that I am the one who was giving sanction to that entanglement. I am the one who was allowing that disturbing flow of thoughts and feelings. So I am the one as consciousness which can transform the thoughts and feelings. Now comes the empowerment, where I know that I am the one in that flow also. I can have that will and force and effort. So he says that this unitive aspect, where I know that I have a control over that flow, enables him to arrive at self-mastery and perfection. So we transmute our feelings and thoughts into more purer versions of them. We transmute ill will to goodwill. We transmute all our thoughts which are very poisonous to something more beautiful as that witnessing consciousness. So this enables him to arrive at self-mastery and perfection while rejecting what is less divine or seemingly undivine. So this is what we call whatever was not serving me, whatever was now unskillful and poisonous in my life, as witnessing consciousness, I become aware of it. And when I become aware of it, I just don't have to keep tolerating it. I can transform it. There comes the aspect of self-mastery. So use those patterns which are not skillful. They are helpful for me and others. They are benefiting me and others. If the earlier ego patterns are not benefiting, I can abandon them. I don't have to constantly, unknowingly just keep on following them. So now he says that now he can rebuild the Prakriti, thoughts, feelings, all the movements, ideas in the mind. He can rebuild her forms and movements in himself according to a nobler pattern. More thoughts of kindness, more goodwill at heart, rejoicing in the happiness of others, being able to be happy when someone else is happy, not being jealous. So this is how we transmute whenever we become conscious of unskillful patterns. More actively using this power of sanction or refusal, he perceives that he can slowly and uncertainly at first and more decisively afterwards change the movements of nature. I have the power to change my thoughts. I have the power to change my feelings. I don't have to abandon them. We don't have to become just totally thought free and feeling free. We don't have to become like a stone. we have to get in touch with our deeper and truer emotions and thoughts which are more interconnected and vast rather than suffocating and limited. So I think, and this is only the first chapter that we touched upon, that too not fully. So he just starts from the process itself, the beginning, and he ultimately comes to that how we can attain that self-mastery, where all of us wanting to seek that self-mastery. What is the way? What is the process? So I just wanted to compile it, and for that I just made this a few steps, again collecting from what Sri Aurobindo shares in the chapter. So first, to be conscious of thoughts and feelings, and what is my center of operation, what is my intention, right? Or do I just want to assert myself and want to be the right one? So that has to be in check. So to be conscious of my thoughts, my feelings, and the center of operation. Then to be vigilant whenever these intruders that Sri Aurobindo was sharing, whenever they are there. Attachment, aversion, anger, greed, jealousy, whenever they are there, desire, to be vigilant of them, not to take it as my own desire, let me fulfill it. Third is the will. Now there has to be a will in me that yes, I want a beautiful life for myself and the people around me. Because if I don't become beautiful, how can I expect people around me to be beautiful? So the will and conviction to put effort, because this requires effort. It's a constant process towards a beautiful life. Fourth, as Sri Aurobindo was sharing, that there will be a discomfort and pain in the process, enduring that pain. So enduring the pain in the process gladly as we disidentify from the intruders. And fifth, but not the last, I'm sure, more and more comes after this, self-mastery, where I rebuild what the last slide that we shared. We rebuild nobler patterns which are now skillful, more benefiting myself and others, while I identify as the witness consciousness and knowing that I have the will to change my life and to transform, to make it a purer life, a consecrated life. Yeah. So although I packed it up all, in 1 hour or maybe less, but we know that it's a very, very long process, and many a times we stagger, we falter, and even that is a part of the process. So we don't have to bother about that. Center of operation. So Sharda ji is asking, can you please explain a bit on the center of operation? So just simply, knowing that what do I want whenever we are in any interaction. So just check in within. Am I wanting to be right here, or do I want the benefit of whoever is involved? Because many a times we are just wanting to be right. We don't want to be the wrong one. I am the one, who showed you the way. So what is my center of operation? Am I wanting
Monica,
truly? Yeah.
Sorry, can you please give me an example for this, if you don't
Okay.
mind? Yeah.
Okay. So of course, many examples. I think the easiest example that comes to me is whenever we are, talking with our children, for example. Many of us may be parents here, and as parent, we somehow want to be correct one. We want to be the right one. But we know that if we really, really, truly listen to children, most of the times they are showing us the way. So whenever I'm kind of arguing with my child, or even with spouse or whoever I'm arguing with, to see that, can I just stop here? Because whenever we try to be too assertive, too kind of dominating, something I want to protect, that let my point be protected. What I am wanting truly is not anybody's benefit, but
okay,
I should be the right. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Now
so that's it. I think that's one of the examples. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Navneet ji.
Basically, I have a couple of questions. One is, could you give examples of nobler patterns, what Mother Sri Aurobindo have described? And
Yeah.
number two, in very concise, clear words or sentences, what is meant by law of sacrifice?
Okay. So I think coming to your first thing, that what is an example of a nobler pattern? infinite number of examples can be possible. Simply put, the way usually we live is a very sticky way. We live very attached. I am attached with my viewpoints. That's why I want to be the right one. I am attached with people in my life who I don't want to let go of. Don't go away, just keep calling me and keep close to me. And we are attached to power, fame, respect, whatever we think of ourselves. So very simply, we can see that whenever we are wanting fulfillment from any of these things that are mentioned, it disturbs our being. It makes us either agitated, that we are always thinking about that in loop, either for that person, for that money, respect, job, relationship. It's like goes on in our head in loops because I want something from it. So if there is a disturbance in my being, the way I live, that is not a nobler pattern to follow. So now how can I live if not this? I can sense, I can become conscious that, is it helping me? Too much worry, too much anxiety about all the people in my life and how would I be taken care of? Is it helping me? Is it keeping me peaceful? So I ask myself and I get the answer, no. It is keeping me agitated. It is keeping me restless all the time. And what do I want to be? I want to be peaceful. So what can be the nobler way? The nobler way can be that whenever I become worried about anything, I step back from that worry, knowing that doesn't mother know better than me? Do I know the best? And giving away that worry, giving away that anxiety and panic to the mother. And as mother says that we can use the power of thought here. So the nobler pattern would be immediately transmuting my thought. So if I'm worried about my child, what would happen to him? How would he be taken care of? Becoming conscious of that pattern in my head and then transforming it into a beautiful one. I know that the mother looks after us all, and I know that he will be guided and I will be guided. So that's a nobler pattern because that brings me at ease. And that's like how we transform the unskillful patterns to a nobler pattern. Again, one example, there could be many. Yeah.
I think these are easier said than done.
Yes.
If we can do it, probably we won't be sitting here.
Absolutely. So we are in it together. We are in it together.
What is the way out? We know the path, but we are not able to do it.
Yes. I have a question to ask at this. If you are holding poison or fire in your hands, and I tell you that, Navneet, this is fire, drop it because your hand will get burned. Would you still keep on holding if you truly knew that it is fire? You won't. You immediately will drop it, right? So the very fact that all these things that we are talking of, desire, attachment, greed, anger, aversion, still don't feel like poison to us, no one can let you be away from it. So you yourself in your life individually, when you will be convinced that no, I know today that they are poison, you will not be asking this question that how do I drop it? So right now, there is still some promise that they hold, that they will give you some fulfillment. Otherwise, you will not be asking this question. The very fact that I'm holding fire in my hands and I'm asking, I know it is fire, but how do I drop it? Tells me that I don't know this is fire. So I think we have to go to a step before that to know that why can't I get convinced that this is fire? It means definitely I still have some enchantment, some promise that it holds, that if I continue to follow that desire or attachment or the ways of my living, it will bring me something. And I'm telling you, no one can make you convinced if not for yourself. So one day, it could be any day, it could be now, in few hours, it could be tomorrow, it could be years after, maybe not in this lifetime, when I'm truly convinced that I have seen in my life that all these that Sri Aurobindo talks of is poison to me and others. You will not ask how to drop it.
I think one knows many desires, for example, one knows they are harmful, one feels the immediate impact of that desire, fulfilling that desire, for example, eating something uh, or doing something out of desire. One gets the consequences by divine grace as early as possible, but still one is not able to come
Yeah,
out of that. One very well knows
absolutely.
it is a fire, but not able to drop it.
No, then we can't say that one very well knows it is fire. I think that sentence we have to remove from our speech. Because if I knew it was fire, I will not be holding it. So I have to check my words. So if I am saying, oh, I know it is fire, but tell me how to drop it. If you look at this sentence, then you will see that this is something wrong. There, that some knowing, at the level of knowing, there is some problem. And also the other thing that comes, which Sri Aurobindo and mother also, and Jetsunma also shares, the teacher that I was sharing with you, she shares that we are so habituated to our older patterns of living that we are unable to give them. So it's like, the figure that Jetsunma uses is that imagine that there is a forest, and there is a major highway that you are always walking on. So these are the patterns which are now not helping me, but I'm still walking. So eating jalebi, for example, I'm eating sweets, but I know I am diabetic. So it's the highway, the road is all carved. But now what I have to do is, now walking on that road doesn't take any effort. I'm used to that. I'm habituated to that. I don't have to ask anyone, oh, please tell me how to eat jalebi. That I don't have to ask because I'm used to it. I'm habituated to it. I have to ask, please tell me how to stop it. So when I'm standing on these crossroads, where is this major highway in front of me, which leads to eating jalebis and of course, ending up suffering in the body, then I have to stop and I have to ask that, do I want something beautiful to make of this life that is granted to me? Most of the lives that we live are very mediocre lives. Very, very mediocre. And we think that, oh, we are so unworthy. And there must be some other instruments of the divine. Who am I? I'm so unworthy. But if we continue to consider ourselves unworthy, then we will never be able to walk a new path. So we have to know that each one of us is very, very precious. And to give ourselves to some higher aim compels me to stop at that crossroad where I'm going to take that major highway where my habits are set. But I say, no, let me take the way through where there is still grass. The highway, the road is not set. There is grass there. I don't know the path. I don't know how it is going to be. But that path is troublesome. It gives me diseases. It brings me restlessness and illness. I want to make something beautiful of this life. Why? Because I am mother's child and I want to live for the mother. So that's why mother says that aimless life is a miserable life. And depending upon the quality of the aim will be the quality of your life. So I think parallelly it's very important, what are we living for? If I'm living for my little self, my little family, okay, the relatives, maybe 2-3 children, what a life. But when we offer inwardly ourselves to something higher, then we can't continue to follow those habitual patterns which are now harming us. Why? Because I have to take care of this servant who belongs to the mother. Then we honor ourselves, then we can't live an unworthy life. So when I'm, now next time eating a jalebi, although I'm still diabetic, then I would say, no, but I want to work for the mother. I don't want to die too soon. So then I'll be able to step back. But when there is nothing good to look forward to in my life, then I would say, okay, rather, let me eat the jalebi. Who cares what happens to my health? And that is why pain comes. That is why pain and suffering are necessary as a teacher, because without pain in my tummy, I don't stop. The habitual patterns run too fast. They just have so much of momentum that it takes a long time and conviction through all our experiences, so that they can stop. So it's a long process, just agreeing with you that it's a long process, but the conviction has to come individually from within. No one can walk this path for me. Sri Aurobindo can guide us, but he can't walk the path for me. Mother can walk the path for us. That's the golden key that we have, that if we continue in every act, remember the mother, mother eating for you, mother drinking for you, mother bathing for you, everything that we do with the mother, then she walks the path for us. So that's the golden key we have, not to forget that. Yeah.
If we give ourselves that.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So Navneet-ji, regarding your next question, what is the law of sacrifice? I don't have a very few words somehow, not able to find them right now, because there are 3 chapters on sacrifice and I somehow can't put it in a phrase. I'm at lack of words. So I would really recommend for those of us who are interested, please go through these chapters on in the synthesis of yoga, and they're understandable words. It's not that they're too complicated, and maybe then you can form your own phrase which you can share with us, one single line for the law of sacrifice. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Getting to self-mastery, we have to transcend the witness points, into pure consciousness, of course. Yeah.
I think the only thing is that we can't bypass the witnessing stance.
No.
Yeah, and we know, all of us know, that if we practice the witnessing stance, that itself, that itself is a very long and stabilizing and arduous process.
Yeah.
So we have to know that we can't just get to pure consciousness without stabilizing ourselves in the witnessing stance every moment, the moment we see. Yeah.
And slowly the consciousness empowers us, and
yes,
we can, yeah.
So any last things, any comments, any reflections from anyone before we end?
It's a really inspiring talk, Monica. Thank you. Beautiful.
Okay. So
does anyone have any questions or last?
Yes, Chetna.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for the session.
Thank you.
Many of the points at the end, and even thank you, Navneet-ji, for the question, because the question itself and the answer, it brought out many points, nuances that really helped me. So thank you for sharing such practical examples.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really helped all of us, Monica, actually, including. It's really.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Thank you so
beautiful
much.
Session.
Helps me all the time, talking and listening to these words again.
No, it was something about this session today was really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm
you.
glad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So tomorrow, I think we have it's Jishnu, I think, isn't it? Yes. So Jishnu Guha. So until then, 5:15 tomorrow we'll meet again, and sleep well.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, James.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.